Hey, what's up, Superdad? So I'm gonna give you an easy way to get your midsection pretty shredded just from walking. Obviously, reducing your calories is a big part of that. We all have abs, they're just hiding for some of us. But you can strengthen those muscles, make them bigger. And there is, some reason to think that you can preferentially target fat stores around your midsection a little bit, right? It's not a major effect, but for some of us, every little bit counts. Okay. But the real reason that this works so well is not preferential targeting. It's not even, growing the muscles around the midsection. What it really is targeting your TVA, your transverse abdominis, which is the sort of, garter belt that lies underneath the visible muscle or invisible muscle for some of us. But the transverse abdominis, it is invisible for all of us. It's the sub layer underneath the typical muscles we think of as the abdominal muscles. And what it does is it keeps all of your organs sort of nicely in place. It's what the muscle that you use when you do a vacuum, when you suck in your stomach, right? Like this. So normally here, and you tuck it in, that's the transverse abdominis working. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna have you do. The first stage of this is just to do a bunch of those stomach vacuums. When you're just standing there, okay, standing, and you're doing the stomach vacuum. Okay, easy enough, right? Second stage, you're standing, and now you're gonna do slight twists while you're doing the vacuum, okay? You want that vacuum to be as tight as possible, as sucked in as possible, okay? So you're sucking it in, just sort of twisting back and forth. And you'll notice this is quite a bit harder because essentially what's happening here is that your abdominal muscles and your oblique muscles are working against your transverse abdominis. Your transverse abdominis wants everything to stay put. Your abs are attempting to move everything, so they're working in contrast to one another and thereby providing resistance for one another for the strengthening of them. Okay, so that's stage one and stage two. Stage three is actually to incorporate this when you're walking. So if you're out walking your dog or something like that, do a stomach vacuum, and then as you're walking, you're gonna add a slight twist to your upper body and your lower body, okay? So if I were to do more of those, tuck it in. Just a little bit more shoulder twist. Obviously, you're moving contralaterally so that when your left leg comes forward, your right shoulder is coming forward. Here, here. Now you can exaggerate this a tremendous amount if you're walking with no one around, but you don't need to exaggerate it a tremendous amount. It can be something as subtle as like this. You do your vacuum and okay, if someone's looking carefully, they may notice that you're walking a bit funny, but it won't really stand out that much. Okay, and this absolutely will carve up and absolutely strengthen that transverse abdominis, which will keep everything more sucked in, and it will help you achieve that flatter stomach. Okay, now stage four, and this is one that I figured out somewhat recently, is that you're actually going to add a vertical element to it as well. So this is horizontal. This is horizontal. If we add the vertical element, what we're gonna get, so vertical and horizontal together, is we're gonna get a sort of rolling motion like this. So now instead of just twisting, you're kind of rotating around a central axis here, right? So if you're somebody who does some sort of martial art, you'll recognize this sort of motion. Maybe you're throwing elbow strikes, maybe it's overhand strikes, something like this. Or you could do it the opposite way. You can roll under like this. So obviously you have your boxing combinations, uppercuts or whatever, elbows or whatever it is, okay? This is also the movement that's used when you're gonna throw a kick. Obviously not as obvious as that, or else the person would read it a mile away, but you get the idea. Okay, so then you're gonna combine the stomach vacuum with rolling in this fashion or rolling this way. Now, this is going to have the added benefit of, because you're adding the opening and the closing against that tension, you're not just working horizontally against it, now you're working vertically against it as well. And so that's an added amount of resistance in different planes of motion. But the other added benefit of this is that you're lengthening your spine, right, by creating resistance on or tension on one side and relaxation on the other. You're actually sort of decompressing your spine and adding to your spinal mobility, spinal fluidity from doing this. This sort of motion is something that I would do all the time just in the context of martial arts practice. But in terms of overall physical capability, it's totally crucial to maintain that. Very often we just get into living our lives like this, where our upper body, our trunk is just one piece, but really it should have the ability to move fluidly like this, right? So you need to have the ability both to be an iron bar with your spine, but also to be, I don't know what you want to call it, a string of pearls sounds weak, but you know, if it were a string of pearls were ball bearings and chains, right? That's, maybe a chain is a good one. Let's just go with chain, okay? To be like a nice chain that can whip out and flow and be fluid like that. Okay, so if you add this to the walking, it would look something like this. Okay, your head is going over the lead leg. So as you walk, you're rolling forward, or you could do it rolling backwards. So again, the head is over the lead leg as your leg comes forward. So one more time on that one. Okay. See how my head is over my lead leg, and the shoulder that's elevated is the opposite side. Okay, now obviously this is one that's going to look weird if anyone sees you, so you know, be judicious when you use it. But you can do the roll forward, and now keep in mind, you can do this as a practice on its own, but if you were to add into it the stomach vacuum, so a real hard stomach vacuum, and then you can feel the difficulty immediately. All right, if this is something that you are struggling with, you can just get, so recently started doing a little bit of rope flow stuff, but a rope, you don't need to have a big rope like this, but it can help you if you go here, it helps to ingrain that pattern of lead head, lead head. Hopefully you don't have two, head over lead leg, this sort of movement, okay? So if you were to do something like a rope flow while stomach vacuuming, you know, you could use the rope, you don't need the rope. There are 1,000 ways to do this, but hopefully you get the picture. So the one more time, the progression there is standing vacuums, right? Standing or sitting, whatever, standing, sitting, stationary vacuums, let's say. Twisting vacuums. Then you can add this one, the rotating vacuum, into it, just in a stationary position. And then to take that same progression into walking. So you can walk with the vacuum on, that'll make it difficult. You can walk with a twist vacuum, and then you can walk with a rotating vacuum. Rotation is probably not the right word there, but you get what I mean. This sort of alternating, almost like wheels or something like that, where one is going after the other. Okay, there you go. So that will absolutely carve up that midsection for you if you want to have a flatter stomach, you want to build up the strength in there, you want to build up your spinal mobility. Hope that's helpful. Thanks everybody. Go get you some abs.